Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Alana Andrade. Thanks for joining us. The Interfaith Room at ASU's Hayden Library was vandalized yesterday. The room is often used as a prayer room for Muslim students. Pages from the copy of the Quran were ripped out and burned while holes were punched through the walls. The Muslim Student Association at ASU said they expect university police to launch an investigation. The Council on American Islamic Relations says public officials and community leaders must speak out against the rising bigotry nationwide that inevitably leads to acts of hatred. Arizona's first known case of the Omicron variant has been confirmed in Yavapai County. That's according to state and local officials. The Arizona Department of Health Services and Yavapai County Community Health didn't release any additional information about the person. Both departments urge people to get vaccinated, get a booster shot if eligible, stay home if sick, wear a mask, and maintain physical distancing. It's not yet known if the Omicron transmits more easily or causes more severe illnesses than other variants. And Arizona's public health agency is starting what it says will be regular reports looking at state COVID-19 cases and death rates by vaccination status. The first report was posted on the State Department of Health Services coronavirus dashboard. According to the report, unvaccinated people in Arizona were 3.9 times more likely to test positive for COVID-19 than fully vaccinated people, at 15.2 times more likely to die from COVID-19. Arizona's Secretary of State and candidate for Governor Katie Hobbs apologized to a black woman who was fired from her legislative job 6 years ago. Hobbs said she made a group decision to fire Tanya Adams from her job as Democratic policy advisor in 2015, when Hobbs was the Senate's top Democrat. Federal juries found Adams' termination was discriminatory. Hobbs initially deflected responsibility, but now says her response was short-sighted, unnecessary, defensive, and failed to meet the moment.
I apologize to Ms. Adams. I'm truly sorry for the real harm that I caused Ms. Adams and her family.
In response to Hobbs' apology, the Republican National Committee put out the statement which says, in part, "This is too little, too late. Hobbs may be staying in the race, but her campaign is doomed." A freshman at Veritas Preparatory School in Phoenix has found his way into the hearts of the entire community. The relationship this football player has with his coaches and teammates is unmatched. Cronkite sports reporter Cam Dyer has the story on what makes this connection so special.
When you go to a Veritas Prep football game, you'll see a freshman on the sideline, standing about 5 foot 4 inches, with a smile that's contagious. He might not look like a typical football player, but his love for the game is unmatched, and that love extends to his coaches and teammates.
I love to coach, and I love Coach Brock, I love Coach Jeb, I like Coach Norman, Coach Eddie.
Small in stature, but huge in terms of value to the team. Born with Down syndrome, Wes offers the Falcons an important perspective: consistent positivity regardless of the situation.
There's highs and lows in every season, and the fact that he doesn't quite get caught up in either one of them. He's pretty much the same person all the time, and that's really good for us. He still has the same attitude no matter what, which kind of helps you go, okay man, let's just keep fighting.
One of the all-time highs for Veritas Prep this year was on homecoming night. The Falcons were up big in a game, and Wes came in for the final play. What happened next seemed like it was straight out of a movie, and it was a moment that Coach Jeffrey Edward will always cherish.
They're supposed to take a knee or maybe run a 5-yard, but knowing Wes, he's been running, gassers with us, running sprints at the end of practice, so I just know a kid like that, he's going to take off. He just has to take off. I was not expecting him to jump on me, but Wes is full of just enthusiasm and full of life. And he just wrapped his legs around me, and I said, you know what? This is the moment. Let's be in the moment together.
When asked who his favorite football player was, there was no hesitation. Wes said Gage Lentz, the Falcons quarterback. Lentz emphasizes the spirit that Wes brings no matter the situation.
Early in the season, we were beat pretty bad, and I got pulled off fourth quarter, and he comes over and just gives me a pat on the back, and he's like, "Great job, Gage, you're doing so amazing." And it was kind of in a moment of where we're losing and it's pretty upsetting, he just lifted my spirits and was able to encourage me, and it was like truly kind of something special.
The encouragement and smiles Wes provides is apparent on and off the field. Each person he comes in contact with has a similar story. Each one includes Wes brightening their day.
After he scored, I had a few former teachers reach out and they go, "Oh my gosh, I love that kid." And we're talking 2-3 years ago. And if he has that impact on somebody that, they see a minute clip and they know, I've missed his hugs every day before school, and I miss, the high five every time I saw him.
If you're having a bad day, just go find Wes. And he, just his outlook. When I did leave Veritas Prep in 2018, part of what almost kept me there was I would have taught him.
Wes has already secured his spot as a staple in the Veritas Prep community as just a freshman. What he brings each day is bigger than football, and his impact will continue to be felt for years to come. In Phoenix, Cam Dyer, Cronkite News.
And now a look back at some of our top stories concerning housing here in Arizona.
The housing market in Arizona is booming, but one demographic is still far behind. Black Arizonans have the lowest homeowner percentage by race and are far below the national average. Cronkite News reporter Lauren Quinlan tells us this is just one finding from a Phoenix-based nonprofit organization that is pushing for change in their latest report.
The State of Black Arizona, or SBAZ, released a Volume 5 report that focuses on 5 major issues that highlight inequality, which includes education, the economy, and infrastructure. Homeownership is one area where they saw drastic differences.
African Americans, even with a lot of policy pieces that have been put in place, like the Fair Housing Act, that hasn't changed some of the issues around redlining and housing discrimination.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the homeownership rate for Black Arizonans is 34% compared to that of the state's average, which is 64%. Wante Daly has been a homeowner in Arizona for almost 20 years and has a unique perspective.
There's systemic racism in certain areas, but the fact that it's not acknowledged in a lot of those areas, and home ownership is one of those areas. It's like, how do you change that right now when you have certain people that design the system? Because where are you going to go back and change their minds? Because this is something that has been ingrained for years.
According to Taniqua Broughton with the SBAZ, one solution is to create a Black-owned bank in Arizona.
We just started our first CDFI. So Foresight Foundation is in that role where it has an African American woman who is taking the lead. And they are really working to make sure that we have a community financial, investment.
The report also recommends that elected leaders should invest in increasing state pathways to homeownership through counseling, sound lending, and more.
This is my house. And again, it goes back to generations. If I want to, I can give this house to my son. So it's like you have these options that you have if you wouldn't, if you're just renting. And so it's kind of like you have leverage. So a home ownership is leverage in other areas of your life.
The State of Black Arizona urges policymakers and community leaders to focus on the issues outlined in their report, because if not, they believe these housing inequities will only grow. In Phoenix, Lauren Quinlan, Cronkite News.
State of Black Arizona believes Black homeownership is more than just owning a home. It's a pathway for building generational wealth and financial security.
Housing costs here in Phoenix are on the rise, and low-income families are some of the hardest hit by these increases. This is one reason why organizations are working together to create more affordable housing in the area. I recently toured a location in downtown Phoenix where affordable housing is a reality.
We have a housing crisis here in this state.
At a recent press conference, Representative Ruben Gallego met with housing leaders from across the valley to tackle the problems of affordable housing.
Isn't this exactly what we want every Arizona person to have?
Unfortunately, according to the Arizona Department of Housing, housing costs in Phoenix are currently the highest they've ever been, and the state is short about 200,000 affordable housing units. Urban Living on Fillmore is one example of how federal, local, and state funding can help with affordable housing.
Rents for around $790. It's a 3-bedroom in the heart of downtown Phoenix, where rents around us are around $2,000.
According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as of 2020, Arizona has about 10,000 unhoused people statewide. Devine says that having affordable housing in downtown Phoenix creates better life opportunities.
Without housing stability, every other aspect of our lives is affected.
It's very difficult, especially in Phoenix right now, if you're a working mother, like my mom was, to actually be able to afford a place that's going to be stable for you to actually be able to raise your kids and send your kids to school.
Native American Connections and the Arizona Housing Coalition wants more funding from the federal government, and they hope the Build Back Better plan is passed. And to continue efforts to meet high affordable housing demands, the Native American Connections organization is developing a new apartment complex here in downtown Phoenix. The new project would add an additional 216 low-income housing units, and they hope they should be available by the year 2023. According to the Arizona Housing Coalition, 3 out of 4 low-income families don't receive the housing assistance they need because federal funding is not there.
In the last 18 months, Arizona saw a 0.3% decrease in construction employees, according to the Associated General Contractors of America. But Arizona saw a rise in construction employments by 0.8% from July to August. Reporter Julia Sandor went to Western Maricopa Education Center, or WestMec, to see their innovative general construction technology course and see how we can prepare students for the future.
Concrete, masonry, roofing, and many more complex skills are taught through the WestMec General Construction Technology program. The course counts for 2 credits towards a high school diploma. The hands-on class allows students who are made up of mostly juniors and seniors to learn from professionals.
I have so many varied contractors that come and give their time and what I call make an investment so that they can do a withdrawal of a hire down the road.
In the past, Avanti Windows worked with students and gave them a Mastery Window Installation certification. And students have worked in person with Coors Lab Structures, a company that builds parking structures in Arizona. The contractors who come to the class share their knowledge to help students succeed.
I heard that they're really great in what they do, so that was really exciting. I got them to check what I did, and they said it was great, so I really like having them here.
Students interested in the residential or commercial construction industry can join the 1-year program to get a head start in the field.
Last year I did the electrical program with Mr. Markham as well, and so I decided that was really interesting, and I decided to develop more skills in this type of field, so I joined construction.
Students are also building a house that Habitat for Humanity is going to model their future homes after. The students made their own blueprints and collaborated to pick the best design.
Those contractors are begging for my kids. They want my kids because the work ethic that they have and the knowledge in which they have spent 3.5 hours every single day learning that trade. So that's why our kids are really wanted among the contractors. They're showing up with skill and they know how to work.
In Buckeye, Julia Sandor, Cronkite News.
Next year, the class at WestMec will change from a 1-year course to 2 years to give students more opportunity for hands-on learning. You may have tried your hand at growing your own vegetables during the last year, and if so, you aren't alone. Home gardening is taking off. According to one survey, more than 20 million people took up gardening for their first time in 2020. Diana Quintero was at an event full of gardening enthusiasts to find out why the hobby's growing.
At the Great American Seed-Up, hundreds of Arizona gardeners are looking for the perfect seed for the first time back in person since COVID, and they aren't the only ones.
It was unbelievable. It was astronomical in my mind.
COVID caused a surge of people to take on new hobbies over the last year. On the top of the list was gardening.
It was transformative to how many people finally realized that their food is important and they wanted to be able to access healthy food and not rely on food that was maybe not going to show up at the grocery store.
The increase in gardening may also be due to people simply having more time at home.
So while you might have considered growing your own food in the past and you were too busy, now all of a sudden if you're working from home, you've got a lot more time.
get it? Reach in there.
The way food was handled during the national emergency played a big role in the trust individuals have on our food systems. Wow! Co-founder of the Great American Seed Up, Bill McDorman, works directly with the seeds. He says that most of the food produced in the state comes from seeds that aren't native. At the Great American Seed Up, their goal is to get thousands of people to save seeds.
But the Great American Seed Up is about more than just seeds. They also want to plant the seed of education.
The gardening industry has seen a steady growth in popularity even before COVID.
2 years ago, it started actually with the millennials. We saw the biggest bump in new people wanting to garden in demographic history in the United States.
A survey conducted by Bonnie Plants shows that in the last year, 30% of people planning to grow their own food were gardening for their first time. 65% of those claimed COVID was the main reason.
And it just really showed that people have the interest, and when they're at home, when they have the time, they will take it up.
As the country reopens and people head back into their offices away from their gardens, the trend could wither. However, at the Seed Up, they are optimistic that this is one hobby that has taken root. In Phoenix, Diana Quintero, Cronkite News.
A report from U of Arizona says the West experienced a 26% increase in horticulture over the last year.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. Break It Down is next. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.